Have you been hit before cycling? Because you regularly cycle in Winnipeg.
Yeah, once downtown, a truck ran over my bike, folded in half, but I was all right.
Why are you so casual about that? Whenever you talk to cyclists in the city, I'm always astonished at how casual people are about the risks that are out there.
Yeah, I don't know. It happened and it sucked, and maybe it's just sadly normalized. I don't know.
Well, it is when you look at what's been going on in this city. Abby's nodding his head. You don't cycle, but you motorcycle.
He's just added to my second level of being scared to ride a bicycle in this city, knowing that something would fold my bicycle into halves. I won't do that.
Yeah, but you feel safe on your motorcycle?
I kind of feel safe on a motorcycle because I'm in control. But for the bicycle, it's like they don't see us.
We are once again talking about safety on the city streets in the podcast today because once again, this idea has come up. So let's remember where we've been in the city. Remember Vision Zero? Remember the plan 5 years ago to get to zero pedestrian or cyclist fatalities in the city? We're following other cities. We've had so many plans and studies and votes and plebiscites on this. And yet again, it is just not happening. So today in the podcast, we're going to be looking at that. Sherri Rollins, who is a city councillor for Fort Rouge, East Fort Garry, is the reason we're going to be talking about that. She's now has a new motion yet again. She wants to drop the speed to 30 kilometres per hour. This is specifically on Wellington Crescent from River to Kenaston. And let's remember, there's been an alarming number of pedestrian and cyclist deaths this year, 2024, in the city. So we're gonna hear more about why she thinks this is a good first step, or as just outlined, a 10th step, because we've been here before. Will this be the time we get it done? Also on the pod today, we're talking about AI. Do you fear it or do you befriend it? Is it going to take your job? How worried are you about artificial intelligence? That conversation's coming up. And congratulations to Manitoba poet Chimwemwe Undi, who has been awarded a Governor General's Literary Award for her book of poetry. But what's really cool is how Chim talks about Winnipeg, Manitoba, and how we grapple about being citizens of this place. This is Manitoba. So let's begin, as I mentioned, with the serious conversation with Councillor Sherri Rollins about her motion to make things safer on our streets.
Good morning, Marcy. How are you?
I'm well. So tell me why you're behind lowering, the speed limit on Wellington to 30K.
Marcy, and for folks listening that are friends of Rob Jenner, I'm going to be talking about him a bit, so I just want to warn listeners because I just sometimes think city work isn't trauma-informed, Marcy. But the day Rob Jenner died, it actually wasn't the first call I got about an accident on Wellington that morning. There were two. And as we know, after Rob Jenner passed away, you can visibly see the fence along St. Mary's Academy there. It's never erect, Marcy. It always has a car that's run through it. And it's broken, and they have to repair it on the routine. And then, this summer there was a child hit. So, following Wendy's call out, the widow of Rob Jenner, following her call out, I phoned her and I said, Wendy, I want to make sure that someone knows that that someone at the city has caught this ball. And this fundamental challenge that the family issued after he passed away. So at that time, I agreed to work with her, work with the bike community on a motion to reduce the speed.
Can I ask you something that I don't mean to sound insensitive about at all, but I mean, there's facts around Rob Jenner's death. I mean, he obviously was devastating in June, 61 years old, hit by a car. That car was traveling, though, at speeds, that were near 160 kilometers per hour. So effectively, a lower speed limit from 50, where it is now, to 30 would probably not have affected what happened in that case, some could argue. So
absolutely. 160, that will kill absolutely. 50, 60, that's maiming. You might not walk away from 60, but 160, that will kill absolutely.
So that
I've been
person
talking about this for 10 years, Marcy,
so that's why I just wanted to
really well.
I just want to interject here. The only reason I'm raising that is because, and it's not to say that
I know
a
you
lower
don't
speed
mean to.
limit is not something valuable to look at. But I just want to expand beyond even Mr. Jenner's tragic death to talk about how long we've been talking about safety in the city and how, you're looking at Wellington right now. But are you also continuing the fight to have all residential streets go down to 30? Because that, as you know, was, went through. There were pilot projects and plebiscites and it didn't go through. So where are we at with that now?
Yeah, I mean, if I can just take a step back, I was a school trustee, so I feel like I've been talking about 30 kilometers so long. I've met a whole generation that didn't know of work of my generation or even the one before it, right? That wanted to introduce me to the new thing called Love 30, right? But as a school trustee, I feel sometimes that I had more success as a school trustee than as a city councillor on getting more residential streets 30 kilometers. So, every time I run, Marcy, I run on 30K and lowering residential speed limits. There has been more progress in the last couple of years since we, as cities and municipalities, got the authority to do it. It is a little bit more complex than just switching a switch sometimes, not all the time. There have been votes at council that we've certainly lost, but I do believe that the Public Works Committee has their eye on road safety. We have amazing plans and a budget to do it for active transit. So there has been a lot of work to get to the point where we have our transportation master plan. And you can, this motion was co-developed with the community. They're referring it there. So there's lots of confidence in it. And so, but I don't want to be talking about it in the next 10 years. I want it just done, Marcy, to your point.
So 2 questions here, because you mentioned the traffic master plan. Is the proposal then in the motion for 30K, do you think, is your hope is that it'll be written into that plan to make it happen in Winnipeg? Or are other measures also something that you would be interested in exploring, like maybe more traffic calming infrastructure, those small circles or speed bumps?
Well, both ends. This motion is focused on Wellington, obviously. I expect some significant pushback given the type of road Wellington is and how people need it and all users need it. But it's a both and for me. You want to continue working on lowering the speeds on residential streets, and you want to keep making sure that all users, whether they're pedestrians, students going to school, cyclists, and cars are using the infrastructure safely.
Hi, my name is Arpandeep Singh. I'm from the northeast area of the Winnipeg, and this is Manitoba.
So I don't know about you, but I actually have some concerns about AI, artificial intelligence. This is just as someone who speaks in front of a microphone every day, I'm very aware that my voice could be stolen and used for something maybe I don't intend it to be used for. Still ahead in the podcast, we're going to be talking about AI. Should you be concerned, especially if you're an artist or a writer or a musician? So we'll have a good conversation about that coming up. Right now, though, we are smiling ear to ear for a writer in Winnipeg, a poet specifically. Chimwemwe Undi is now a Governor General Literary Award winner for her book, Scientific Marvel. It won in the poetry category. But what's really cool is it is all about being a citizen of this place where we live, Manitoba. And I talked to her about it. Hi there.
Hi, good morning.
I'm excited for you. What are you feeling?
I'm over the moon. Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment for the book and for everybody who worked on it, including me. I'm really just thrilled.
Where were you when you got the news, or how did you, how and when did you find out?
So the shortlist they send by email, but the winner they call on the phone, and I was here in my office as I tend to be, I guess. And I was on a Teams call that I had to figure out how to mute hurriedly, and I'm sure made a lot of noise. I Yeah, I'm over the moon.
Because you're not busy enough, because you're a lawyer, just so people know as well. This work itself, and I know you've been gracious enough to be on with us live here. We just called you this morning and you agreed, and you've even got a passage to read for us. But tell us about, Scientific Marvel, and as you were creating it, what it meant to you and what you hope it means to people who read the poetry.
Yeah, so this collection kind of grapples with questions about what it means to live in a city like Winnipeg, to call this city home, to call any city home, to call this nation home, what family homes mean. And it's my first collection, so I always say it feels like I've been writing it for my whole life. It's meant so much to me, even before the shortlist and the award, how many people have told me that they connect to the work in this book and feel seen by the stories and the questions that are asked in this book. And I hope that it does that for people, that it's a book that they can see themselves in or see their neighbors in, that can be comforting and or open the world to them a little bit.
The stories and the questions that are asked in the book, can you give us an example of a question that's asked?
I am really interested in the question of what we owe each other as people living in a community together. I'm interested in questions of what kind of lies we are telling to ourselves about our history, about our future, about the present world that we live in. What I love so much about poetry is that it forces me to pay close attention to the world, because of the work of a poet, I think, is to watch the world around us and to be curious about it. And those are some of the questions that I kind of work on and think through in these poems.
What are you going to read from for us this morning, Chimwemwe?
It's a poem called In Defense of the Winnipeg Poem. There's a series of poems in the collection that are titled Winnipeg Poem and that kind of make fun of or consider some tropes that appear in Winnipeg poems and in other kind of Winnipeg media, including John Kay's work, which I love, obviously. And anyway, this poem is called In Defense of the Winnipeg Poem. Is bigger than its targets and still small, and there is nothing to do and so much to be done. And here, at the center of a bad invention, it is, in fact, pretty cold. Thanks.
Nicely done. Nicely chosen for this morning as well. How do you hope people feel? You said that people already, respond to the work, and you feel good when they connect over the work and feel seen, is what you said. How do you hope overall people leave when they put the book down, how they might feel about themselves as Winnipeggers, given that obviously that exploration is so central? Do you think people will, beyond feeling seen, will it spark conversation with others, with friends and neighbors? Is that a hope? Or will it maybe just leave one sitting with a feeling, whatever that feeling might be for them personally?
I do hope that it sparks conversations. A lot of these poems come out of conversations that I've had person to person with people in my community and people who are a lot smarter than me and who are thinking about these questions. And then also in sort of a broader kind of thinking conversation that I've had by reading work by people who think about Winnipeg, like Owen Taves in his book Stolen City, or Nigan Sinclair, who has been writing op-eds for the Winnipeg Free Press for a long time, and of course also won the Governor General's Award this morning for his book Winnipeg. And I think I hope that people from Winnipeg specifically, I hope that they're left with a feeling and understanding that I really love this city. I'm very proud to be a Winnipegger. I think that there's a lot going for the city. And that for me, love and criticism criticism can only come from a place of love, that I am coming from a place of hope, that we can work towards a city that is more equitable, that is fairer, that is more loving together. And I very much think that we can.
So well said. Let's grapple together, shall we? What are you going to do with the $25,000 prize?
I have a couple of ideas. I'd like to buy a piece of art as sort of an emblem of this time. And then for at least 3 years, my family immigrated here when I was 13, and I haven't been back to Southern Africa since we came over. And I'd really love to visit and to take my husband. And I'm hoping to use the money to go to another home of mine, that home.
Congratulations again. Thanks so much for being with us on CBC and sharing so much with us all about how you're feeling about this. Appreciate it. Corey, I love what Chim was saying about the reality of being here, and I think she used the word grappling with being a citizen here. Yeah,
I think part of being a Winnipegger is having a bit of a complicated relationship with this place. I think there's a reason why one of the popular song, "The One Great City," that I hate Winnipeg, it really resonates with a lot of people. You love it, you hate it. It's always a bit of a combo of both, being a Winnipegger. And then it also becomes you love it, you hate it maybe, but then also you don't know what to do about it. And you want to do something about it because you're engaged here. When that article came out years ago about, Winnipeg, most racist city in Canada, it was so fascinating because we started to explore it and talk about it on CBC. And there were people writing in, Manitobans, saying, "Marcy, I thought you loved Winnipeg. How could you have this conversation?" And I was like, it's because I love Winnipeg that I'm engaged in this conversation, which is a little bit of what Chimwemwe was saying. Yeah, why can't both be true? About her work. Let's invite Abby into this conversation. Or is it Abby that we're inviting into this conversation here?
You talked about love and hate. I think what you're about to talk to me about is something I'm well aware of. So I'm making the, talking about, is it Abby or is it just a recorded voice? How do we know it's not artificial intelligence? You love AI. I kind of love it. I'm one curious person that just wants to try stuff and see how it works. And yes, I've been reading articles and listening to, news reports about people suggesting AI is going to be taken over. Yeah, you don't worry about that it's going to take your job as an audio tech? I think it's more about the opportunities. These tools are more like to simplify and assist us. And for those that will not see the negative side or the fear that it brings, they're more like tools to assist us and make life easy. Well, that's what Gerald McGrath is hoping people will take away. He is up next in the podcast because he is the co-founder of something called Ukai Projects. It's a Toronto-based nonprofit group. But he's been hosting these workshops across the country, including here in Manitoba, called Finding Your Way with AI. So he's helping all of us, like Abby, who is already glass half full on AI, and those of us like me who fear it a little bit. He's helping all of us find our way through it, specifically those who are artists. So when you think about your workshop, as I mentioned, some of it is just to get people thinking and talking. How do you articulate the goal, though?
Well, I think with AI, it's something that's become quite polarized. So people are taking quite strong opinions, and I understand why they take such strong opinions, because it's going to have massive implications for how we live. But the problem is often that we find that artists are not engaging with the technology itself. They're sort of choosing one of these two stories that we're being told, that either it's going to save the world or it's going to destroy it. And in our work, we try to involve artists in better conversations about artificial intelligence so that we can have other points of view to draw on. Because if we're going to figure out a way to live in a world where AI is everywhere, we're going to need the artists involved in those conversations.
What do you do with the fear? I'm just curious, right? Because right away you're going to have people that sit down and say, there is no good side to this. I'm just afraid, and you can plug in a name and you can write a song. Then what happens to art, for example, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that's a fair question. Before starting this tour of workshops, we did some consultations with artists in the sector, and fear was a recurring theme for sure. I think that once folks have a deeper understanding of what AI can do and where it can help artists in their work, I think some of that fear gets transformed into maybe not hope, but at least some plan to be able to accommodate these changes.
Can you give us an example of that? Like where, how you found that in a past workshop, maybe where you moved to the hope? It doesn't obviously have to be musicians. There's all kinds of art. There's visual art. And so any kind of an example where you what you say to people about the hope?
Yeah, for sure. So I think often when people think about AI and the art world, it's replacing the artist. But often where artists are using AI is in the kind of boring parts of the work, the things that take up a lot of time, but maybe don't feed the artist in the way that they need to be. And so we've seen real strides taken in terms of how AI can be used to help make artists like communications more effective. It allows them to reach out to people in a way that doesn't take up as much time. For second language speakers, AI is extraordinarily useful because it helps them to navigate sometimes very complicated government programs or funding programs. And so really where we find it most useful is where it can sort of eliminate some of the work and labor that doesn't contribute to creation and really allow the artist to focus on making good work.
And how do you answer the question about those industries where there may not be as much of a bright side, or as you put it, boring work for AI to take care of, where in fact there may be a real threat of AI replacing a human being's work? How do you handle that in the workshop?
Sorry, yeah, no, I think that's
kind of builds on the first thing I asked. It builds on the first thing I asked you, but where are you already seeing it happening? It's maybe a better question.
Yeah, no, I think they're both we see it obviously happening with illustrators. So AI can be used to create images, it can create text, it can create code. It's starting to be able to create video, and it does it in seconds. And so a lot of folks are seeing work that used to be sort of gig work or contract work disappear. And in many cases, people show up to these workshops, and really what we're doing them is equipping them to go out and fight. We don't take a particular position on AI in the arts. We just believe that artists need to be involved in these conversations. And so if folks come out of our workshops equipped to better sort of resist and fight for their rights as creators, then that's a win as well. But we need a sort of more nuanced conversation about what the implications of AI in the creative fields is going to be. Because the sort of two stories, they don't support enough of the lived experiences of people that we work with in this.
This may be a stereotype, so I want to be careful with how I word this. But I'm curious whether or not there's a gap in terms of who is more welcoming of AI and understanding the ways it could supplement their work, and who is more nervous about it. And I wonder whether or not there is a difference in terms of generationally who might be. Obviously younger generations grew up with all kinds of different tech, and you may have older artists who are more worried. Does that play out in your workshops or not? I don't want to be ageist.
No, and I think you're right. I think there's two patterns. One is definitely age related. We hear a lot from more established artists, at least, that intellectual property, copyright, these are concerns that they have. They're really concerned about their work being used to train these models without any of the benefit accruing to them. For younger people, the worry tends to be more about being replaced and not being able to catch up. And so wanting to learn the tools so that they're not at a disadvantage relative to other people competing for fairly scarce jobs within the sector. We also see a gap around folks that have traditionally been on the outside of these benefits. So often, when new technologies are introduced, the benefits tend to accrue to big companies and large institutions. And so folks that maybe feel like they're on outside of that, so equity deserving or women in many cases as well, have been much more skeptical of AI and its benefits. And we see that mirrored in our workshops as well.
You've heard, Marcy, AI is not here to replace us, but to assist us.
You're still optimistic. Yeah. I might need to go to the workshop and talk it out. I still have some nerves, for sure. Well, we've come to the end of the podcast.
Beep boop, keep us from becoming robots. Rate, review, subscribe.
That is the way to do it. This is Manitoba.